Um, I hope this works. It's 10 p.m. I'm not Johann König. My name is Annika. Johann and I curate the exhibition series The Artist is Online together. And last week we opened the first exhibition in the series. It's titled Surprisingly This Rather Works. It's a digital art exhibition, and what's special about it, you can visit it via the app, König Galerie. You can download it in the App Store and the Google Play Store. And Manuel explores what is possible in the digital realm when it comes to making and experiencing art. And Johann and I, this week we speak to experts in the field of net art, post-internet art, digital art, and later this week we also speak to artists who are part of the exhibition series The Artist is Online. My first guest tonight is Wallerstein. He's a writer and curator, and he's the director of a gallery. And he wrote a very interesting article he recently published on digital art exhibitions. And he's also an expert in art and gaming. And another thing he recently did is curating with two other people the very, very big and massive online exhibition, Well Now What the Fuck? Wade is going to tell us more about this in a minute. And try to find Wade.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi Wade, how are you?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So
yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
me too. So let's dive deep with the first question. You call yourself a digital anthropologist. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so I'm a digital anthropologist because I graduated from the University College London Digital Anthropology program, and that's sort of their moniker. And a digital anthropologist is exactly like a regular anthropologist. We just are specifically interested in the relationship of people and human culture to digital technologies. And so that can manifest in a lot of different ways, and it's quickly becoming an outmoded term because, as you know, we all know, it's basically just regular anthropology but updated for the 21st century as everything becomes kind of digitized. But I specifically focus on the relationships of people to digital technologies, and more specifically digital visual culture, and how that shapes us and how that affects us kind of as a society, as a culture, and as individuals as well. And so that's sort of the work of a digital anthropologist.
Thank you for the explanation. You're also the director of the gallery we are live with right now. And I've just read the description of your gallery on the internet, and you describe it as a new parking lot for digital art. I mean, what do you usually do when you not curate an exhibition with 2 more people and 90 artists in it? What is your day job like?
Yeah, so Silicon Valley is a project which I started to kind of create a global hub for the digital arts. I felt like there was so much cool stuff going on the internet, online, everywhere, and I really felt like there was not a lot of centralization. There were really fragmented parts of the internet and of this kind of world of digital art and digital curation that I wanted to bring together into one space. And so I call it a parking lot because I kind of conceive of the posts as parking spaces, and each of the shows that I share as sort of, cars that would be parked in this, hypothetical lot. And so when we're not curating exhibitions, we share work that's going on around the world. So I try to highlight some of the cool things that are happening in efforts to kind of not only give people awareness, but also to connect different nodes in the network. So I'm constantly, I'll post a really cool show online. For instance, today I posted a show by Dakota Gearhart, and those shows then act as kind of activations for the network. So people will write to me and be like, whoa, this is super cool. And then I'll kind of facilitate introductions between those people who wrote to me about the show and then who the show is created by, to kind of build bridges between what is, an increasingly fragmented internet. And I feel like this is especially important work to do right now as we're all separated and online, to create ways of connecting with each other, build community, and be together. When I'm not curating for Silicon Valley, I work for the Consulate of Canada in San Francisco, where I work on technology diplomacy initiative. So I have a really, not only a really good sense of, how this is working for users and practitioners, but also how governments are thinking about these things and how governments are thinking about the way that tools are used by their citizens. I also am the co-director of Transfer Gallery in Los Angeles, which is a physical space where we showcase mainly computational and simulation art. Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, has your work recently changed, or do you think that the lockdown and that people only can sort of experience art online, has that changed your work, or do you think that in the long term it will change maybe the acceptance of digital art?
So to answer your first question, no, my practice has not changed at all since COVID had started. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about this project, is that it's kind of perfectly poised to deal with this time period. We still do exactly the same things. We still run an online residency program. We're still doing exhibitions. We're still sharing exhibitions and artworks. But as you said, yes, the acceptance has exploded. I think that people have found my page more frequently because they're looking for these kinds of experiences and these engagements with digital art. But my practice has not changed. I think that, folks are just realizing that it's really valuable, maybe not just during this time, but always, to have online spaces for connection, for community, and to view this kind of work. And I hope that, once the quarantines are lifted and we're all able to kind of re-enter the physical world, that this kind of interest stays, because it showcases that even when we're far apart, but separated by thousands of miles, like you and I are right now, that we can still come together in virtual space, create work, share work, and be together in a way.
Yeah, one thing. Thank you to Aram Bartol, our friend, for connecting us.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
it's the beauty of the internet,
Yeah.
like it's just these things, these small little ways that, we can be introduced to each other. And I love seeing those kinds of things happen, because it really showcases like the power, that our platforms can have, and has really kind of demonstrated, because I started this project kind of for fun, as a curatorial resource for myself. And it's expanded so much beyond that, because I've seen so much hunger for this kind of work to be done. And now that we're all separated from each other, the value has just really, become really apparent, because we can't go to galleries, we can't go see our friends, we can't see each other, but at least we can see each other's work, we can engage with it in certain ways. And I really love shows that do this. I mean, I also really love the current König Gallery show, Surprisingly This Other Works, because I love the way that it invokes like a sense of play, and really brings people together, around, something that's fun and lighthearted and happy, that can exactly serve as a bridge between us. So it's super cool.
Thank you. You didn't get paid to say that.
No, I did not get paid to say that. I just really like it.
Yeah, thank you. So I was wondering, you just published an essay, or was it published due to COVID, or were you working on it anyway? I mean,
so I wrote that essay specifically for our exhibition on Silicon Valley, Well Now What the Fuck, which launched earlier this month, because I felt like because I was thinking about these things, and I was working on this amazing exhibition with Lorna Mills and Faith Holland and Connie Nicole, we were thinking about these things, we were curating the show, but we didn't necessarily have like a strong framework around it. And I felt that, we've had this moment of a resurgence of net art, as kind of the art magazines are calling it. They're saying that this is a revival of net art. And on the one hand, it's true. I mean, artists who are not online are suddenly online again. People are really interested in engaging. There's so much amazing community and conversation that's happening right now. But at the same time, I wanted to showcase that this is not new. Net art has been going on since the 90s. There's a really long and a really beautiful lineage of work that's been created, because ever since the internet and digital technologies have been born, there have always been artists who have been right there working with those technologies and pushing their limits and testing them. And I wanted to not kind of be like a trend follower, because I felt like, I had this space before any of this quarantine happened. A lot of my colleagues and my friends were doing amazing work, in this domain. And I wanted to, instead of, resurging net art, I wanted to reclaim it. I wanted to show the community what's happening and what, is still to come. And that this isn't just like a trendy moment of people moving online. Maybe there's a lot of presence, but that doesn't mean the work was never there. And so, I wanted to, in this essay, I start and I talk about kind of what has happened and what the lineage is so far. And in the 90s, there's a lot of really amazing communities that were organized around email lists and bulletin board systems, which are kind of outmoded forms of communication that we don't really use anymore. But those are where artists were talking to each other. They had these vibrant communities where they would build together, they would create together, they would share code, they would edit it, and they would, send it back and forth that way. And then that kind of, as the internet evolved, those communities evolved as well. And we transitioned into a phase where people were using more feed-based forums like Tumblr. And so this kind of net art community in the early 2000s evolved into kind of blog-based spaces. Obviously, since then, that changed. And then we had this phase kind of between 2009 and 2014, where we were describing a lot of the work that was made to be displayed on the internet as post-internet art. And this is kind of a contested term. It was coined by Marissa Olson, who I know is going to be, one of your speakers early on. So I won't talk too much. Yeah, so I won't talk too much about that. I'll let her explain it because that's her word. But this word was really used to describe all of the work that was being posted to Instagram, posted to Facebook.
One thing, people are asking us to speak slower.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm a California Valley girl, and so it's it's hard for me sometimes, but I'll do my best. And so there was this whole era of post-internet art, work that didn't occur after the internet, but work that occurred, in a context where the internet had saturated all of our, lived experiences. And so that was a kind of a period of art history that I really came into my own. And that's when I started curating. That's when I started thinking about these things. And now we've kind of evolved past the phase of post-internet art, and a term that is currently being used to describe this sort of work is called expanded internet art. And this was a word that was described by C.C. Moss in a book that just came out in late 2019. And this describes work that exists on the internet as existing in a continual state of becoming. So that means that an artwork isn't just a physical sculpture or an image or something posted online. It's all of the engagement surrounding an artwork. That could be installation shots. That could be like an evolving code that changes as it runs. That could be posts on Instagram. Kind of all of the ways that an artwork expands and spreads and disseminates across the internet, and how those engagements and those ways of circulating become a part of the artwork. And that's really the domain that I'm most interested in now, and sort of the trajectory that I see going forward for this field. And something that I think about a lot with Silicon Ballet as we post shows that as we repost shows that have existed, we become a part of that history and that lineage of each show. We become a part of this process of continual becoming as the work expands and evolves in the different internet contexts that it exists in. And so in the essay, to go back to your original question, these were all things that I was thinking about. And I wanted to really stake a claim for this history, to let people know, and also to tell people that, about the show, and, why we're doing this and why this is important right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really, really good essay, and I'm glad you wrote it, because I thought, well, someone has to do this, and I'm glad you did it as an expert. Thank you. You spoke to digital curators and to people working in these fields, and I think you managed to describe the advantages of digital art exhibitions. Can you sum up what you found out when speaking to experts?
Yes. So I think we're talking about two different essays. I'll just clarify. I wrote one for the Well Now What the Fuck exhibition that sort of talks about this lineage. But before that, I did my master's dissertation research with digital curators. I was interested in people who are working purely on the internet and not using physical space. Because my research question was, is it possible to curate outside of the white cube? Is it possible to use the internet to circumnavigate institutions? Can we, in a democratic way, as individuals, take the internet and create space there, outside of any kind of formalized art world structure? And I worked with a lot of curators who I spoke to, and basically they all created their online spaces so that they could, avoid the financial barriers that exist in the art world, to avoid the social barriers that exist. In a lot of ways, the art world is insular and nepotistic. These were people were looking to the internet because they didn't have anywhere else to go. you know, as often happens, kind of unfortunately in the art world, that beauty kind of comes from struggle. And so this entire beautiful, rich, and vibrant digital art community that exists right now came out of folks being frustrated with the way that things are. And I found out a lot of different things through my research, and you know, kind of learned some of the, you know, the machinations of how digital curation works. And the core of it, the thing that, you know, differentiates this kind of work from any other kind of curatorial work, is the relationship between the viewer and the artwork as mediated by the computer and by the interface. There's a deeply intimate relationship that exists between me, the user, my device that I'm holding in my hand, the content on the screen, and then the interface that's kind of, you know, mediating through all of that. And there's this beautiful thing that happens as the device and the software and the interface and all these different things work together to produce an art experience. And the fact that you, on a computer or on a phone, have that one-on-one relationship with the work creates a more intimate experience than almost in any other way. There was a really beautiful quote by Porpentine Charity Hardscape, which I use in that paper, and which, you know, has kind of guided, you know, a lot of my thinking on this. Porpentine Charity Hardscape creates web-based works that are available for free online. And they said in an interview with Artforum that their work should be experienced alone in the dark on your shitty computer in your apartment.
Yeah.
And I think that that really speaks to the whole experience, that, you know, these are works that should be experienced one-to-one, you to the computer. You're alone in your own personal space. And you have this ability to physically touch, manipulate, drag, copy, delete, download, you know, anything that you want when you're working with a digital art exhibition. And I think that that aspect of tactility, of using your own personal device, which you already have an intimate relationship, is what is able to create kind of these really meaningful engagements with digital art that my curators were working with. And so that's sort of the, you know, the biggest takeaway that I had from doing that research.
Yeah, and your exhibition, well, now what the fuck, opened early April, right?
Yeah, it opened early April. It's a huge show. We've got 92 artists in the show.
It's massive.
Yeah, and what we were really trying to do was exactly like I wrote in the second essay that's a part of the show, was to create community. And this was the most important thing to us, is we felt like right now we're all fragmented, we're all isolated, we're all quarantined in our own homes. And we needed a space to come together. And one of the most important features of the show is that there's a chat room that's linked to the Silicon Valley Twitch account that is persistent throughout. So anyone who's in the show can write into the chat room and talk to whoever else is in the show. So therefore, it automatically becomes a meeting place for anyone who happens to be there. And we hope that this kind of creates the opportunity for serendipitous encounters with strangers. We hope it allows friends to come together and look at the show, you know, at the same time. And we chose these 92 artists from a large pool of, I think it was over 150 artists that we originally invited to the show, because these artists are all, for whatever reason, prominent in their field and doing something really interesting for their practice. We have artists who were original net artists in the 90s, who are part of the original communities that kind of built this genre. And we also have artists who are brand new, still in art school, just kind of starting out, but producing really interesting work. So we wanted to show that whole spread of artists who, from then to now, who are still practicing, who are still working, and showcase kind of the breadth and the scope of this field. We asked all of the artists to contribute GIF or video, with a preference towards GIF, because we felt that GIFs are kind of the ultimate conveyor of visual language. We're super used to them. They're part of our vernacular digital cultural language. We send them via DM, we write them in comments, we share them with our friends. And so we felt that because this form is sort of the ultimate form of communication that we use online, that by bringing them all together, by creating a community space, that all of these different pieces together would be able to build a vibrant community online while everybody's online. So that people have a place to gather, people have a place to share, and people also can kind of see the scope of what's happening and what's been going on for the past 30 years.
And can you say something about the title? Johan,
yeah.
Wait. Yes,
Johan. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, Johan.
Johan was confused by the title. I mean, not the title itself, but by the what the fuck. So why did you decide to, you know, use a swear word?
Absolutely. So we decided to build, this title was kind of a co-creation with me and my co-curators, Faith and Lorna. And we were responding to the way we were feeling. The show is very emotional, and it kind of, we don't really put a lot of framing to the show. We like the show to just kind of impact you emotionally immediately. And well, now what the fuck was built out of our collective frustration. We had no idea what to do. You know, we were all thrust into quarantine. We're all separated from each other, and we just, you know, we're kind of grasping it. We wanted to do something. We wanted to build something. We wanted to respond somehow, but we didn't know how. We literally were sitting down and literally said to each other, well, now what the fuck do we do? And we felt that this feeling of just having no idea what to do, of being totally lost, was something that was super universal, that we were all feeling everywhere across the world. And the show and the title really describes this existential question that we all have. What do we do? We don't have any answers. We don't purport to have any answers. The show doesn't provide any answers. It doesn't, you know, preach. It doesn't, you know, theorize. We're purely saying we have no idea what the fuck is going on. And all we can do is create a space to come together and kind of examine this question together. And we thought that if this was a question that we all had, that it would be a great way to organize together using this question as a way to centralize our, you know, our thoughts and our feelings. And we decided to go all the way and use a swear word because we also wanted to convey the colloquial nature of this show. We're not purporting to be any kind of fine art institution, and we want this show to feel as accessible as possible. We wanted to use that kind of language, that WTF, you know, text speak that we're all pretty accustomed to, because we felt that that represented the kind of communication that we wanted to have with the viewers of our show and create the kind of casual environment, you know, that everybody can enjoy and nobody can feel excluded from. And so, I don't know. I wonder if this is a question that you feel as well in this time, you know, well, now what the fuck? What do we do? And so the show kind of speaks to all of the work, and a lot of the work is brand new work that's shown for the first time and that was created for this show as artists kind of grapple with that question, well, now what the fuck? And so the title kind of speaks to, you know, the way that we're all responding to this, the kind of emotional way that we're you know, thinking through these things and just trying to deal with ourselves and our, you know, all of us, our own practices in this really crazy and confusing time.
Can you show us the exhibition?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just move over here. I'm gonna, you know, I've got it beamed.
I know that you are prepared.
Yeah, so let me just switch the camera around here. So this is the show. It's called Well Now What the Fuck, and it's curated into a number of different rooms. This is the landing page of the show, and you can scroll down and you can see all of the different rooms. For those watching, I'll post in the comments. You can visit the show at wellnow.wtf. And if you go to wellnow.wtf, you'll kind of, you know, reach this room. And so each of the rooms contains a title that was created by me and my co-curators during our planning process. We were just thinking of all of these phrases that were coming to mind and that we thought could kind of organize some of our thoughts. So things like pants optional, to describe how, you know, we go on Zoom and you don't have to wear pants. Like, who knows, I could not be wearing any pants right now. You know, the clean room. Yes, I'm wearing pants. And so, you know, that's sort of where those came from. And there's no real thematic organization to these rooms. They're all, you know, just sort of, we built them out of, you know, what kind of made sense on an emotional level to put together. So this is the first room. It's called the clean room. Let me just throw it up really quick. And in this room, we have a number of different works by artists that are kind of dealing with like a concept of like a clean room and of isolation and of personal space. I mean, that's a really loose way to describe it. Not all the work is dealing with that, but we felt that these were kind of the gut emotions and reactions that were coming out of this. So this is a work by Wednesday Kim. We've also got in here Bob Bicknell Knight, who's another digital space curator. He runs the space Is This It? All of these different works in this room kind of, you know, we put them together to be somewhat in dialogue with each other, but at the end of the day, all of them are meant to be interpreted by the viewer in their own way, to evoke an emotional response, to evoke like a little bit of thought, and to really be extrapolated by the experience of the user. I can show you another room. This one is called So Sad the Art Fairs Were Canceled. To kind of, you know, poke fun at sort of the art world moaning that all of the fairs were canceled and things are moving online. Here we have work by Anthony Antonellis. This piece is by Alex McLeod. This piece is by Sydney Shavers. We've got Erica Magre in here. And down here, my good friends at Offsite Project, which is another virtual space. And so again, all of these rooms are just really meant to be explored, kind of traversed in a casual way. The GIFs expand across the whole screen so that you can click them as well. You can kind of leave this little sidebar and kind of expand it so that your whole screen is absorbed by the GIF. And we thought this was kind of a cool way to do it because we felt like GIFs are really interesting for a number of reasons. One, as I said before, their capacity for communication. You can copy and paste any of these GIFs from our website and just plop them right into your chat bar and share them with a friend if you want to. Also, something that's interesting about GIFs is that they're a very simple file format, and they're easily transmittable. However, there's something kind of complex that's happening. As these different images are looped and repeated, they sort of expand and transform. And so if you sit with any of these GIFs and you just look at them for long enough, I promise that 2 minutes after you start versus when you first started looking at them, they totally change and kind of take on new meaning for you. And so we thought that, you know, with everybody sitting alone at home in their houses, that we could provide these images to kind of expand the imagination and create these sort of transformative moments as the GIFs, you know, change and expand and carry on. I can keep clicking through the show a little bit here. This will go to the pants optional room now. And so it's interesting, this show too, because we have works by artists that are all together from very different contexts. This piece right here is by Erin McCarthy. And she is still in art school. She's a student, but her work is amazing and really transformative. But we've got her, you know, in the same space as this piece by Petra Kortreit. And this is one of Petra's, you know, famous GIF pieces from the mid 2000s. And so we really liked this aspect of bringing old and new together in a way that showcases the breadth and the scope of the digital arts community. Here's a piece by Cassie McQuater, who also, she's an artist who's, you know, more contemporary and who is newer to this world than artists like Petra Portrait, who's been producing work for the past 20 years in its vein. But she's also still really thinking about the way that the internet can be ripped and remixed and reused. And, you know, you see even inside of this GIF, there are a number of smaller mini GIFs going on. So right here you have Sailor Moon kind of holding her position and doing her thing. This is another character from another video game that Cassie has ripped from its classic context and remixed into this new space. So you have a lot of things going on here, all of which we feel really really tap into the core spirit of net art. Net art being, you know, for sake of a definition, being work that is of and made using the internet and that critically examines the structure and the form of the internet as well. And so this piece, I think, you know, this Cassie McQuater work right here really exemplifies that, you know, kind of remix and reuse culture and building new context to share work in. Anybody can go and check out the work. It's available at wellnow.wtf. And if you have any issues, you know, just let me know and we'd be happy to troubleshoot that with you.
Yeah, just Google the title. And I know that you're already working on part 2, right?
Yeah, we are. So this is a totally expansive project that is not stopping here. We already have 92 artists, but we will be re-releasing the show in May with an additional slate of artists that we've chosen. You know, as people continue to think about these issues, continue to think about quarantine, and continue to make work, we wanted to have this continue to evolve. And so alongside that re-release, we'll be doing a whole slate of public programming as well. So we'll be doing Twitch panels and workshops and Instagram lives and all different kinds of ways to you know, provide the community with not only entertainment but a place to come together and organize. And all of those events are open. We really encourage your participation in them, and to really be what's the word? You really get people to be a part of the conversation.
And when is the opening date exactly? Do you know that by now?
We have not totally solidified that yet, so I won't share it, but it will be in the first week of May.
Cool. And people are asking for the link to your essays. I mean, one is on the website, and the other one just we're going to link to it afterwards. Or go to my Instagram. It's Annika, and I linked it in my Instagram stories, so you can find it as well. But we're going to link to it in our Instagram stories here on König Galerie as well.
Yeah, for those who are interested in my dissertation paper about digital curators, you can find that one at Antimateria Digital. And they're a really cool, a good friend of mine in Mexico City. She's hosting the article. Her name is Doreen Rios, and she runs Antimateria Digital, which is another really amazing digital art space. And yeah, you can go find it there alongside a number of amazing resources related to the digital arts. It's a really cool space to go and learn about some of the stuff that our community is up to.
Great, thank you. So, people, questions for Wade? I mean, you seem to have many fans. They want you for president. I've read that was why I was smiling the whole time, because people were like, Wade for president.
Well, no, I don't think, I think that, I mean, those are some good friends of mine. I think that wrote that in there, but, the thing that, I think that they have, put that sentiment because I'm a really big proponent of this, and I'm a really big proponent of digital spaces. I think that it's a field that has been under-championed and underrepresented in the past, and that could really use love and support from everyone and from the art world. I think that some of the most exciting things that are happening today are happening on the internet, for sure. And you don't need to go to a gallery to experience them. You can experience I want people to know that, and I want people to have access to that. So I try, throughout my practice to not only share my own work, which, is cool and great if people like it, but really to share other people's work, and like I said, to create these bridges and these links between separated nodes of the network.
So here's a question. What's your personal definition of net art?
My personal definition of net art is work that is made using the materiality of the internet itself. And I don't think that can just be someone who is like creating work on an HTML web page. I think that net art really needs to have a critical engagement with the form. So if the work is not being critical of the internet in some way, or kind of deconstructing it, then I don't think it probably falls under the category of net art. Then it would just be digital art, or art made using digital technologies. So I think that that's the one thing that net art really, the two things that net art has that other art genres don't have are, one, that critical engagement with the form itself. I mean, you wouldn't look to a sculptor and appreciate their work unless they're doing some kind of critical examination of sculpture itself and what that means, and kind of pushing the medium forward. It's the same with net art. If you're not using the internet in a way to be critical of it and to kind of expand people's understanding of how the internet works, then I don't think it quite matches. The second thing that net art has that is really unique to it is community, and the fact that it's organized online. And that's something that we also try to, as I said, to represent in our show, was that community aspect through the chat room. The fact that net art was born in chat rooms, it was born on message boards, and that aspect of communication, of ripping and remixing and sharing is really critical to that field. Because Zach Whitworth also writes in here, so net art has to be self-referential, and I don't think it necessarily has to be self-referential. I mean, there are tons of works in the Rhizome net art anthology, for instance, which don't directly reference themselves, but I think that are somehow critical of exactly that one right there. Yes. And
it's quite big. It's such a big book. Look.
Oh, it's an amazing one, though. And the cool thing about the book is that everything in the book you can view online for free, which is the best part. But not necessarily self-referential, but it has to be, using the form in a critical way, I think. And that is really what differentiates it from other kinds of, internet art, so to speak.
I mean, what's interesting, Johan again? What's the book? Wait, I can show the book again. We're going to speak to Dragan Espenschit. He's a preservation director at Rhizome. It's the net art anthology. It was published last year, and it covers the history of net art. You can also find the whole thing online, and it's published as a book. We're going to speak to Dragan tomorrow about this. Oh, back to Johan and his question. I mean, Johan asked me yesterday to describe the difference between net art, post-internet art, and digital art. And what's interesting about the question we've just heard is that, I mean, you were asked for your personal, definition of net art. I mean, there's so many. I mean, even when people speak about generations, so who's the first generations? How many generations are there by now? Is post-internet art different from what's happening right now? I mean, is there something like social media art, or is there already post-social media art? Because artists already switched from like being active on Instagram and doing performances on Instagram back to exhibition spaces. So I mean, there's like people working in these fields and they have different definitions. So there's not the one definition, I guess, right?
There's definitely not one single definition. And this is something that evolves over time and is a very contested term and a very just contested history. I just posted in the comments my favorite book on the topic. It's by CC Moss, and she runs Gas Gallery down in Los Angeles, and she's also, a former curator of the Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, as well as I believe she's an alumni of the Rhizome Fellowship Program. But in any case, she wrote this book, Expanded Internet Art, and she's really describing a new phase. Like I said, she's describing a new phase in this lineage that kind of contextualizes all of the different threads in this vein together. And really, the thing that really unites all of these words and all of these classifications and all of this different work is the fact that they use the internet in some capacity to expand past what they originally were. They transform and they mutate and they exist in multiple places at once, and all of those different areas and places that they exist, whether they be in a physical gallery, on a web page, Instagram images, post images sent via direct message, all of those things contribute to the artwork together in this kind of expanded field. And CC Moss does a really great job of taking that whole lineage, tying it together, and explaining how it can be taken forth for the future. So rather than listen to me, I highly recommend you guys go and check out this book and learn about it for yourself.
Yeah, buy all the books. Buy this book. And someone asked where you can get this book. I mean, Dragan sent it to me, but I guess you can find it online somewhere. I mean, Dragan.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, no.
I know, unfortunately, but yeah, that's one place you can get it.
Yeah, I mean, check out the Rhizome website. I'm pretty sure you can find it online at Rhizome.
Yes,
but the whole thing is online as well. I mean, you can click through all the pieces. And I think we're going to take the last question for now. The question is, how do you survive financially or find this online generosity? How is it made possible?
So this is a really tough question, and one that I'm constantly asked all the time, and that me and my colleagues and my co-curators are all trying to grapple with. There's no easy answer. A lot of us are unfunded. For instance, Silicon Ballet is a zero budget project that was started for fun out of my bedroom, and has kind of grown and expanded past that. The show that we currently are doing, Well Know What the Fuck, we are accepting online donations via PayPal. So we encourage viewers, if you can, if you visit the show, to donate $5, not for every time, but just one time, and you can visit the show as many times as you want. Obviously, if that's not possible for you, the show is available for free online. And that's been, we've gotten some good responses. People have been generous and have given us, money, but it's not really enough to pay each artist the proper fee that they deserve for this show. So online spaces like myself, I'm able to operate because I have 2 day jobs that I work, outside of this, and this is what I do kind of as my passion. And this is the same case for most digital art spaces. Most of us, have day jobs that we work and then go to this at night because it's our passion. And that's a really difficult space for a lot of folks to work in. I mean, there's not a lot of financial models that we've been able to, me and everyone in this community, that have been able to adopt in order to, monetize ourselves. And so we rely upon the willingness of the artist to to, you know, to contribute their work, you know, without a budget, which is amazing and incredible. We hope to offer visibility, you know, via our platforms, but obviously that's really not enough. I don't think that cuts it at all. You know, I'm so grateful for all of the artists who have participated. I run an online residency program, which there's no stipend for the program. I'll be really transparent about it. However, I work very closely with each of the artists who participate to provide value to them. So I try to teach them tools for how to navigate algorithmic feed-based environments. I give them reading lists. We talk about the reading lists together. We try to, you know, I try to educate them in certain things that maybe I have knowledge on that they don't, and vice versa. But it's a struggle, and currently we're working, you know, everyone in this community is working on kind of figuring out different models for how to make this financially feasible. But it's a struggle, and, you know, I don't really have too many of the answers. Right now, most of us are relying on grant money from institutions when we can get it. When we can't, we're relying on donations via PayPal and via places like Patreon. And, you know, via the generosity of artists who are here because they really want to critically experiment with the form. But the artists that work with me on Silicon Ballet are really interested in critically examining Instagram as an exhibition space and what it means to post your work in an algorithmic environment where you don't have any control over how these things are spread. So it's kind of a nerdy community. I mean, we do it out of love, we do it out of interest, and every once in a while, you know, we get a sponsorship for something. Right now, actually, for Well Now What the Fuck, we're in the process of negotiating a corporate sponsorship for the show, and if we get that, which I can't say anything more about it, but if we get that sponsorship, we'll be able to pay every single artist, which is like a dream for me, and you know, amazing. So that's really exciting for me. And to this person who just posted this comment, I'm very sorry for my for my cadence of speech. It's a struggle to speak slowly.
I think it's my fault because I said we only have 30 minutes and you wanted to mention as many things as possible. So I guess
yeah,
I'm responsible for your speed.
You know, if you guys ever want me to break it down, feel free to drop me an email and we can, you know, talk a little bit more slowly there.
Now the screen is gone. Here I'm back. The thing is buggy when you want to, I don't know, now this thing stays here for the rest, and I think we're done now. And I mean, before we went live, we agreed upon that we're going to do a second live stream on my personal Instagram account, Annika, next week. And then you can ask me some questions. So I'm really looking forward.
Yeah, that will be so much fun.
Conversation. So thank you for being our guest. We'll be back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. with the book again, Dragan from Rhizome. So tune in, and thank you very much, and sleep well tonight.
Thank you, you too, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. I hope you guys like the show, and write to me anytime if you have any questions.
Yes.
And thank you, Annika. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Wade. Bye-bye.
Bye.